So welcome back everyone for the second session of the third day of the Global Green Destinations Days. And we are going to have a bit of a different session compared to the previous ones because it includes a very interesting workshop hosted by JoAnna Haugen, and then an introduction to the Future of Tourism Coalition by Kim du Toit. So I'm going to give over the platform to JoAnna. Please unmute yourself. JoAnna?
Yep, I am here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we do hear background construction noise, but
okay.
We'll just ignore that.
We will do the best we can. I'm very sorry about that. Thank you for having me today. Once upon a time, your destination looked a little bit like every other destination. They all had the must-see site, that iconic backdrop or attraction, and that dish or event or tradition that no other destination had. But all these unique features failed to do one really important thing, and that is tell a unique story. For a destination like yours to truly stand out while embracing sustainability, it's time to double down on storytelling that empowers local people, supports social initiatives, and helps travelers become agents of change. Welcome to the workshop, What is Your Story? 3 Untapped Storytelling Strategies. My name is JoAnna Haugen. I am the founder of Rooted, a solutions platform at the intersection of sustainable tourism, social impact, and storytelling. And today I want to share with you 3 ways we currently use stories in the tourism context and opportunities for your destination to use storytelling to create a powerful ripple effect that promotes a more sustainable future for tourism, the planet, and people all around the world. We're going to cover 3 specific and untapped strategies you can use to make your destination's stories more vibrant, interesting, and honest. And throughout this presentation, you will have the opportunity to share your insight on the strategies that you are using with 2 questions that you will answer in the chat box, and then 1 question you will respond to using an embedded poll. By the time you leave today, I want you to be able to identify new ways to promote your destination's most unique qualities, while also supporting sustainable development and empowering local people using storytelling. So let's get started. The first strategy I want you to be able to walk away with today is the ability to uncover untold stories by empowering local storytellers. So here's the thing. Right now, the stories told by destinations are often told from the dominant culture's perspective. Too many destinations are relying on a sanitized version of their story. They talk about their traditions and their cultures and their attractions, but they aren't telling the whole story. And they're telling the story through a dominant culture and a sanitized perspective. But the problem with this is that it inaccurately misrepresents the people, culture, and history that have helped shape your destination, even if truthful and more accurate stories are uncomfortable to talk about. The problem with the way that we're telling stories right now is that this continues to silence those people who have been historically unheard. And so we're perpetuating a damaging cycle of storytelling. I'd like to suggest that we have an opportunity in the tourism industry as people representing destinations all over the world that we can find, empower, and amplify diverse stories and storytellers within your destinations. So what exactly does this mean? As destination representatives and DMOs, this is an opportunity for you to begin promoting day tours and activities that are offered by marginalized communities. If you represent a tourism board, this might be a great opportunity to start creating theme itineraries for self-sufficient travelers that highlight that untold history or that aspect of culture, or something that right now maybe you're kind of pushing into that dark corner. But what this mostly means for you is that it's time to start being more transparent and honest when we share our stories about our cultures, traditions, and our history on our websites and through our marketing materials. We need to be willing to embrace and celebrate diversity and complexity through our destination stories, even if they are messy, uncomfortable, and complicated. But why would we want to do this? We talk a lot in this industry about travel being a force for good. And right now, the average traveler is wealthy and likely from some sort of Western country or white. You know, we're telling stories through the colonial gaze. But when we open up the door for travel as a force for good, we begin to create the opportunity for travelers to connect with people who are not like them. And when we create these opportunities for travelers to interact with people who are not, who they do not normally identify with, this is where a sense of connection and finding that shared sense of humanity comes into play. This is where conversations of complexity and grappling with confusion can happen, but in a really human and real, authentic way. So beginning to empower local and diverse storytellers starts to open the door to truly allow travel to be a force for good. This is also a really powerful opportunity for you to tell your story to your domestic travelers and your own community in a new way. Again, people who live in your neighborhood, in your country, in your state, they know the same stories as everybody else, but if you start surfacing new storytellers and stories, and you can give your domestic travelers a new story to tell, they are very powerful ambassadors to their friends, to their family, to people who are coming to visit them. And being able to surface this new way of thinking and talking about our destinations really empowers our domestic travelers. But perhaps one of the most important things when we talk about sustainability is that finding diverse storytellers is a way to promote sustainable development by distributing financial resources into potentially underserved parts of our very own communities. I'd like to share a couple examples with you that are currently in action where we can see diverse storytelling happening. Alabama's Road to Freedom is a 6-day self-guided itinerary that is available on the state's tourism board's website. And this really brings to the surface the history, the very messy and confusing history of the Black struggle, civil rights in the United States, a history very mired in discrimination and racism, and yes, all those complicated and messy things. But this is an opportunity to allow those new voices come to the surface so we can start to think about this destination in a more well-rounded and honest way. Vision Walks is based in Australia, and this is a bush tucker walk of discovery with local Aboriginal women. Again, a marginalized community in Australia, but what a powerful way to allow the Indigenous community to share their story with travelers. So there are examples of this in play in destinations right now, and we have an opportunity to continue to tap into this kind of underappreciated storytelling strategy. So what I would like to know from you is who are some of the unexpected storytellers in your destination? So these might be some storytellers that you are or are not tapping into right now. And I'd like you to take a moment to type in the chat box here who some of the unexpected storytellers are where you are working. We'll take about a minute here. You know, and think about, we think a lot about, for example, maybe people of, when we talk about like indigenous communities and some of these other marginalized communities, we're even talking about those people that we just don't really think about very much. I love this, farmers, fishermen, yes, yes. Who else is part of your community? Who's not telling your story? Yep, homeless people in London. We're gonna return to that in a moment. Yep, indigenous elders, fantastic. Refugees, oh, great, love this. Young people, yes. College students, I've heard about that recently, some places that are tapping into college students, very cool. So this is a great, yes, love this. Please start taking note of what your colleagues are talking about here. They're surfacing some amazing untapped storytellers in their communities. Do any of these communities resonate with you? What I want you to do when you get back to your virtual workspace after this conference is to continue this brainstorming process. Continue to think about those people in your communities that you haven't tapped yet and begin developing an action plan to connect with them. And then start developing a way to tap into those stories from there. Yes, I love all these ideas. Thank you for sharing what you are doing already and maybe some new ideas for you to take away. So our second strategy for finding untapped stories in our communities is to begin supporting social initiatives. Here's our problem. Travel right now is packaged as a pristine activity. Again, stories destinations are largely comfortable, sanitized, and predictable. And like we mentioned earlier, a lot like every other destination story. But you may have heard this saying that a destination is not a story, and that's true. And the other thing that's also true is no destination is pristine and perfect, and yet we continue to package travel and the tourism product as this beautiful, perfect product. A couple years ago, the Travel Foundation published a resource called The Invisible Burden. And if you haven't checked out The Invisible Burden, I highly recommend that you do go find that free resource once you head back to work. In The Invisible Burden, they lay out a number of invisible impacts, negative impacts that travelers have on the destinations they visit. So we're talking about things like water usage and waste disposal, commoditization of local culture, marine degradation. I mean, these are all negative impacts that our travelers are having on our destinations. And yet we aren't addressing them. We continue to package tourism in this very pretty and pristine way, but not addressing the environmental and sociocultural challenges that our destinations are facing. We're actually exacerbating them through tourism. And when travelers are given the sanitized version of the tourism story, they might not even realize that they're causing harm. I want us to change our story. We have an opportunity to promote local social impact initiatives and citizen science projects as opportunities for travelers. What does this mean for you, the destination representative? This starts with some hard questions. It's time to start identifying the local challenges in your community and then begin identifying organizations that are addressing those challenges. I want you to start sharing the stories about your local challenges and the organizations and people who are change makers in your community. Find ways for travelers to learn from, participate in, and support social impact work. Now, I'm talking about making stories up. The thing is, these stories already exist. These organizations already exist. You, in the tourism context, are just surfacing them and sharing them within the travel space and with the traveler. So to be clear, these aren't necessarily travel-related initiatives, but these are those challenges that we're pushing into the dark corners. And these are the initiatives that your community members are already finding solutions for. And that's a really compelling story. We need to stop hiding those challenges that tourism is exacerbating and turn them into stories that highlight local solutions and change makers that travelers can support. This, of course, has a lot of benefits. We need to remember that tourism adds value to sustainable development by supporting the SDGs and by sharing stories about local initiatives that are addressing the sustainable development goals. This is an easy way to sustainably integrate tourism into a community's fabric that supports sustainable development in general. So again, tourism is adding value in this kind of context. The other really cool thing about developing stories in this way is that it helps build pride by highlighting solutions developed at the community level. We're bringing travelers into the local conversation. We're celebrating what is already happening in our destinations. Here are a couple examples. Shiro's Hangout is a cafe run by acid attack survivors in India. This is a social challenge in India, and this incredible initiative is run by and supports women who are acid attack survivors. So this is something that travelers can visit, they can support, they can learn about this challenge, but it really is, bringing these women and their stories out into the open. It's a very cool initiative. I love that a few of you mentioned earlier, highlighting the stories of homeless folks. Invisible Cities and Unseen Tours, I think somebody mentioned that earlier. These are companies, social impact initiatives that are employing formerly homeless people to give city tours of their cities. So you have travelers who are interested in these destinations already. Now let's give them a different way to look at them. And not only is this a very cool way for your travelers to be experiencing the destination, but this is supporting a marginalized community and a very cool local social initiative. So we are going to open a poll here. And hold on one sec. Launching poll. Oh, can you see the poll? Yes, we can see the poll. Okay, good. The question is, are you currently promoting and supporting social initiatives as part of your destination marketing? Looks like we're at a 50-50 split so far. Who else is out there? I know we've got more of you to answer this poll. Oh, we seem to have closed the poll. Okay, I'm not sure how we did that. Thank you to those of you who shared. Please feel free to drop also in the chat box whether this is something you are doing. And again, we have a takeaway opportunity for you. Again, when you go back to your virtual office after this conference is over, I want you to do some hard thinking. I want you to really think about the challenges that your destination is facing, but then let's go one step further and start thinking about organizations and initiatives that exist that are already addressing these issues. And let's take that one step further. What opportunities exist to expose travelers to the work that these initiatives and social impact projects are doing? How can you, as a destination, start amplifying this very cool story? So we're going to move on to strategy number 3. We're going to engage travelers to become agents of change. Wow, big. This is powerful stuff, but we've got a problem. And that problem is that right now, travel is used as a way to escape negativity. Travelers are wanting to get away from all the stress and chaos in the world. And my goodness, if this world isn't overwhelming enough, travelers just want to get away. They want to step back. They don't want to think about bad news. They don't want the negativity when they go on holiday. And the tourism industry supports this. This is the story that we are telling. People don't want to think about bad news. And so the industry continues to hide that which is uncomfortable. They don't want to complicate things. We don't want to talk about negative stuff when our travelers come to visit. So in an effort to avoid the negativity, we put on a happy face for our destinations. But honestly, this is a veneer of happiness, because as travelers escape the negativity in their own lives, again, they're having a negative impact on destinations. The tourism industry is supporting this. So the thing is, travelers aren't actually engaged in their experiences in a way that is meaningful for your destination. It's time to make a change in how we're telling this story. I'd like to suggest that we can use storytelling to invite travelers to grapple with and learn from the imperfect. Okay, so what does this mean? Coming off of the last strategy of sharing stories of social initiatives that are turning challenges into solutions is a great strategy to take. But we're going to take this idea and turn it in a slightly different, in a different angle here. A lot of times we talk about creating awareness and education in our travelers, but we can go one step further to help travelers take action and make changes to their behavior in a way that supports sustainable development in your community and continue and empower those travelers to continue to make positive behavior changes long after they've returned home. Wow, now that's a powerful story. So the question is, how can travelers move beyond just having a nice holiday and instead engage in meaningful action in your destination? Now, to be clear, this isn't about doing work. Talk about a negative connotation. Travelers aren't coming to your destination to work. This is about finding and surfacing activities and opportunities where travelers are already engaged and fully realizing the potential and capitalizing on that story. Now, I want to take a minute here to talk about the idea of negativity. Negativity, negativity is about doom and despair, and we feel like a sense of helplessness, like nothing that we do matters. Negativity closes people down. This is what people are trying to escape when they go on holiday. So when we want to engage travelers, we need to share a story of hope, optimism, and self-efficacy. Doing this creates the conditions not only to educate travelers, but actually activate behavior change. Think about how powerful that is. If we can tell a story that actually activates meaningful and powerful change in travelers to change their behavior, that has incredible ripple effects that will go on long after travelers have left your destination. So there's a huge bonus to this. We can use compelling storytelling to help travelers become part of the solution rather than continuing to contribute to the problem that tourism is accelerating. Empowering travelers in a way that encourages them to make changes in their own lives has powerful ongoing ripple effects. This really is the trip that keeps on giving. Let's look at a couple examples. Let's look at a couple of examples in action already. Plastic Whale is a very cool initiative in Amsterdam and actually in Rotterdam that invites people to come fishing for plastic in the canals. And people fish for plastic that's just floating in the canals. But this is more than just a beach cleanup. When Plastic Whale takes people out to go plastic fishing, there's a story of optimism. They tell a story of how plastic is valuable. And they follow through on this story by collecting this plastic and not hauling it off to the dump and not recycling it, but turning it into high-end furniture. And the idea behind this story that they tell their travelers is that plastic is valuable, and when you have something of value, you're far less likely to just throw it away after a single use. You think about something of value not as a piece of garbage. And that's a story their travelers are taking home with them when they go. That's a really powerful story. The Coral Nurture program is a partnership between science and tourism taking place in Australia. The idea behind this is that tour vessels are all over the Great Barrier Reef anyway. Travelers are out snorkeling and scuba diving, and tour operators have a very wide reach over the Great Barrier Reef. So because they're on the Great Barrier Reef anyway, they're taking this opportunity to use these tour vessels and these tour guides to help replant and monitor corals, and then share their knowledge with the visitors who are on their boats already. So you have people who are snorkeling anyway. Now, imagine that they're on this boat and there's a conversation about coral bleaching and how coral bleaching happens and the climate emergency and what can we do in our own lives so that we're no longer contributing to that coral bleaching. Again, a really powerful story that travelers are going to take home with them when they leave your destination. Go ahead and use the chat box for this question. I'd love to know, how does your destination currently help travelers make a positive impact on your destination when they visit and once they return home? Is there anything your destination is doing right now to really activate change on behalf of your travelers? You can go ahead and just drop anything that your destination is working on in the chat box. Nothing, not seeing anything. Okay, there we go. All right, no problem. Good, good. Recycling, education, and lodging. Yep. Good. Planting trees. Yes, that's good. Great. Okay, so we have opportunities here. We have an opportunity to tell a better story. When you go back to work after this conference and you take all this knowledge back with you, here's what I want you to start doing. I want you to start working with on-the-ground frontline service providers like tour operators, your boat captains, accommodation owners, who are already in the places where travelers are, and begin to take that additional step to help engage travelers so that they are more active in their experiences in a way that activates behavior change and the way that they're going to think about their story. I want you to encourage travelers to continue their transformational story in your destination with a post-travel marketing campaign. Now, this is something I haven't seen, and I would love to see it, because so often we are talking to travelers in their pre-trip phase. We want to inspire them to come to our destination, and we might provide them with some information while they're on the ground, but then we forget their post-trip transformational experience. If you happen to come up with a post-trip campaign where you're engaging travelers beyond their time in your destination, I want to know about it. Please get in touch. We want to see some of this in destinations. This is really powerful storytelling on behalf of the traveler. So I want to leave you with this thought today. Leaving thoughtful, creative, and locally focused storytelling out of the tourism equation leaves a valuable opportunity on the table. This is a win-win-win opportunity for destinations and the people who call these destinations home, for travelers, and for the tourism industry as a whole. Local residents win because they dictate what role tourism plays in their communities, while leading with social initiatives that strengthen community development and address environmental and socio-cultural issues. Travelers win because they have a chance to form a connection with locals and your destination in a highly personalized and unique way. They are also left with a message of self-efficacy, optimism, and hope, which creates the conditions for people to engage in their travel experiences in a more thoughtful and responsible way. These conditions form the foundation of the traveler's story, which they are likely to share with others. This word-of-mouth marketing, which promotes travel as a partner in sustainable development, is invaluable for destinations just like yours. And that is a story worth telling. Thank you for joining me today in this workshop. I would love to connect with you after this, continue this conversation. If you happen to connect with me on LinkedIn, please leave me a note and let me know that you were in this presentation. And I look forward to continuing to learn how your destination is implementing some new and meaningful storytelling strategies. And with that, we do have some time for questions that I would love to hear from you. And I think somebody from Green Destinations has been collecting questions. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Great.
2 seconds, and then we'll have a question ready.
Okay.
Do I read the first question?
Yes, please.
A question from Ryan Aponte. Can we have some more advice on how to find and reach out to local storytellers? What should we look for in finding a new storyteller?
So what I would say is first start brainstorming who some of those folks might be that you currently aren't tapping into. There were a lot of great suggestions here, and I think somebody from Green Destinations is making note of all of these. So we'll try to make that list that your colleagues have also suggested. So start with that list of folks. And keep in mind, when we're talking about people who have historically been silenced, they are rightly suspicious when people approach them and want to hear their stories. So this is about building trust, finding those people who are maybe the gatekeepers, and beginning to create a relationship. What's really important here is that we're not, as destination representatives, you're not here just to siphon stories. This is a two-way conversation, and this is a partnership. These are people who are an integral part of your community. And it's really important that we're establishing trust and rapport and not just using people for their stories, right? So that is one really important thing. Start creating those connections with whoever that might be. And again, there might be some organizations in the community that have an open door to these communities. Start there and find out what they're already doing. Find out what their stories are. Find out if there's anything that they want to share. The Vision Walks is a great example that we shared earlier from Australia. These Aboriginal women who are giving bush tucker walks. Like, that's an amazing story. So, go to that local Indigenous community and learn about their stories. Find out if there's any way that you can help them tell their story. You're not telling it for them. You're just surfacing a story that already exists.
Thank you. So, second question. Is that all right, Chenga? I have a question from Ayako Ezaki. Thank you, Ayako. Could you share a bit more information about the Vision Walk example that you presented from Indigenous women in Australia?
This is just a couple women. It might even be one woman, actually. I don't know if it's one or two women. It's actually a small tour company in Australia, and the women take small tours, just a few people, into the bush and share how they live on the land, looking at the plants that they use and the food that their ancestors have eaten, how the land that they live on is truly their living space, this sacred space. So this is introducing travelers to this really rich and sacred Indigenous culture that, a lot of travelers know that the Aboriginal people exist, but this is giving agency to the Aboriginal women themselves to tell their own story. And so again, it's supporting sustainable development because it's also financially supporting them. So that's a little bit more about that experience. Vision Walks is, you can certainly look it up online. They have a website and you can learn more about that specific experience.
Thank you, JoAnna.
Of course. Okay. Are there any other questions?
I think this is it for the moment, and we also have to move on soon to the next presentation. So it's been truly insightful, and thank you very much.
One short question.
Thank you.
One next question.
Oh.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I saw a question coming last minute from Monica David, who asks, what kind of content should we promote? Audio, video, or text, or a mix between the two?
What kind of content? I'm going to make an assumption that maybe you're referring to on your website and in your marketing materials. And I would say that, that it's a combination of content, right? What I would say is really, really important is to keep in mind that whatever text you're using and whatever imagery you're using to support that, we need to be really careful not to appropriate cultures. And we need to be very aware that the photography and the imagery we use needs to represent the diversity of our destinations. So be thinking about the kind of words that you use and the language you use and how that is matching with any audiovisual materials. I would also encourage you to support local content creators in your own destinations who identify with these storytellers, right? I mean, you have incredibly talented people in your own communities, in these marginalized communities, and very diverse storytellers. Hire them, pay them, let them tell the story that you can then share with travelers who are coming to your destination.
Great, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Please feel free to reach out. I would love to continue this conversation.
Thank you, JoAnna. It was really amazing. Great. And please stay with us as we move on to our next presenter, and I will let Albert introduce her. Are you there, Albert? Well, if not, then I just introduce you, Kim. Kim is our Green Destinations team member, and she is
Green Destinations a couple of months ago.
Okay, here is Albert. We cannot hear you, Albert. Maybe you're having the same issue as I had in the very beginning, that the audio is getting lost.
Share webcam. Okay, right.
Now it's okay. Okay, Kim, I think you can take over slowly.
All right, perfect. Okay. All right, can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so good day, everyone. And first of all, thank you, JoAnna, for that very insightful workshop on storytelling. It actually feeds in very well into what I'm going to talk about now as we aim to create a new story for the future of tourism. So as Albert said, I'm Kim de Toit, and I'm originally from South Africa. And I've been working now for a couple of months for Green Destinations as part of the Future of Tourism Coalition. I actually spent 4 years working in the cruise industry, and so although I can say I've seen a lot of the world, I've definitely experienced firsthand what sustainable tourism is not. And it's now the end of a session, but it's the beginning of an exciting new journey with an important aim, which is to set sustainability at the heart and foundation of the tourism industry, both in recovery and in moving beyond this. This time, not each of us alone, but together as the Future of Tourism Coalition. So the 6 member organizations, together with GSTC as an advisor, first came together in March, knowing that all had been working towards similar goals, but along different avenues, and that it was possible to have a stronger voice and industry if organizations began to work together. The coalition has now grown from 22 founding signatories to over 300 signatories. Together, the coalition members founded the 13 guiding principles to serve as a comprehensive framework on which the coalition aims to channel action, as well as a recovery and sustainable development framework for the tourism industry moving forward. Over time, we will learn together, and the coalition will be dynamic in its response to the needs of the industry and the signatories. The coalition also aims to become more representative of inclusivity and diversity as more signatories commit to the 13 guiding principles. And we build partnerships and collaborations that fill the gaps, as they say, those that have been long missing, to add the voice our industry needs. As it stands, the 13 guiding principles are as follows: to see the whole picture, use sustainability standards, to collaborate in destination management, to choose quality over quantity, demand fair income distribution, to reduce tourism's burden, redefine economic success, mitigate climate impacts, close the loop on resources, contain tourism land use, diversify source markets, protect sense of place, and to operate business responsibly. Each month, we expand as a coalition on one of these guiding principles in a monthly newsletter, as well as on the Future of Tourism Coalition website. So as Albert has so well framed for us, Green Destinations is at a loss about the implications of the current crisis for our destinations. Our response can only be a stronger focus on sustainable tourism. So this is why all who are committed to this should join forces in the coalition, because nobody can solve this alone. You all understand best the implications that this pandemic has had on the industry. You've experienced it firsthand. Many of you are here today because you have been working towards sustainability in your own destinations and organizations. So you understand just how critical this transition is and the challenges you have faced along the way. The coalition came together through an overarching recognition of some key areas. Firstly, the recognition that together more could be achieved than by acting alone. And within the industry as a whole, there was a need for community and collaboration. This flowed into the larger need to unify the industry, metrics, and standards. Together, the coalition could amplify the voice for sustainable tourism. And through bridging the diverse toolkits, experience, and resources that each member and signatory could bring to the table, there would be a greater scope for achieving sustainable goals, as well as for advocacy and action, which could be further reaching, scalable, and cohesive. So we have spent the past few months very insightfully listening to the signatories who have joined the movement so far, and reflecting on your responses to determine how best to advocate and take action, which is representative and founded on the needs and challenges which you all are experiencing within the industry. From our signatories, we learned the overarching desire for a global community with whom to collaborate and share best practices, as well as the desire for resources, data, and training. There is a recognized need to raise awareness and exposure for the challenges faced by the industry, inclusive of funding, a challenge at the forefront during pandemic recovery. Engagement needs to take place at all levels, from the highest level of policymakers and governments, where small changes can drive large transformation, to public and private sectors, stakeholders, and communities. From your responses, we are well aware of the need to redefine sustainable tourism at policy and at community level, as a development priority and economic driver for the local community, while a focus should also be made on travelers and tourists, as JoAnna so clearly stated, changing how tourism is viewed through their eyes as a meaningful privilege to experience, add value, and give back to destinations and communities. There was also a clear need to unify the standards and metrics utilized in driving these changes, while ensuring they are actionable, scalable, and appropriate to the specificities of each destination. So going forward, coalition action and advocacy will be driven by the needs of destinations and communities, and aided by the knowledge and resources of the signatories. All of you. Tourism should be viewed as a force for good, adding value. Destinations and communities are at the heart of this change. And through radical collaboration at all levels between coalition members, together with and between signatories, and together with key players that have long been missing or a challenge to engage alone, the coalition aims to unite a movement that truly highlights the value and necessity of sustainability in tourism, recovery, and development. To highlight the work you have all been doing to achieve these goals, and to aid you in overcoming the challenges and barriers you have faced so far. Through sharing and developing tools, knowledge, resources, and support, together we can unite behind the future of tourism. Many of you have already signed up as signatories, but for those that have not, we do invite you to visit the webpage and to join our growing community, as well as to join our mailing list. Together, we are uniting a movement for the future of tourism. So thank you all for listening, and I do hope that you join us in this movement and that we can help to achieve the sustainable goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kim. Let's see if we have any questions and if Albert can unmute himself. And we do have a question from Akatishti Bekri asking, what do I have to do to be a member of the coalition?
Oh, Albert, do you want to take that, or would you like me to answer?
I think you can go ahead and Albert just jumps in if he manages to have his audio on.
Okay, so thank you for the question. Largely what we ask from our signatories is that you commit to the 13 guiding principles that are on the website. So they are all available there for you to browse over and to read into in more detail. And then there is a signatory response form listed on the website where we gain some feedback from you, because like I said, the most important thing for us is understanding the needs of the industry and how we can help to address those. So part of the process in becoming a signatory is filling out that response form in order for us to better understand your needs, as well as what you can assist us with in becoming a signatory as well.
Thank you, Kim. Okay. Very clear answer. I don't see any more questions at the moment. Let me check once again. Please, everyone from the audience. All right, Jane Assis is just asking, could you please repeat the website address?
Yes, I do actually have it listed. I don't know if you want me to share my screen again. I do have it listed on the final slide. But otherwise, you can just type in the future of tourism. It's okay, perfect. Let me share my screen. Can you see it there?
Yes, thank you, great. Okay. And also Amy Nestler asking if there is a cost associated with becoming a signatory.
No. No cost associated. Like I say, the most important thing for us is understanding your needs, and then, of course, gaining that commitment, because it's not just about saying we value sustainable tourism, but that we're also willing to take action towards sustainable tourism. So along the line, as the coalition determines which steps of action to take, we will further engage our signatories and invite our signatories into the community in order to see where you can best contribute and how we can assist you. But in terms of monetary cost, there is none involved.
Great. And another question coming from Eliodoro. Is there any assistance that the coalition may offer to the signatories?
Yes, definitely. So that is our aim. We definitely aim to be a coalition of action. We don't just want to be another voice that comes up and sounds great, but there's no action taken down the line. So that's why the most important thing for us was over this period to really understand what all of our signatories need, and that will be an ongoing process. And then as we go down the line, we are determining steps of action which can give the most impact. At the moment, we are looking at more immediate steps of action that will gain the most traction and impact right now, and that will be assessed and will evolve over time.
Thank you.
Albert?
Maybe it's good to add for people that you can't join as a person. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. Maybe it's good to say that you can't join as a person, but only as an organization or a company or a government or national tourism board or a destination. And for the rest, there is nothing to add to the very clear statements of Kim.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Thank you, Albert.
Yeah. Thank you, Kim. And good that you added that, Albert. We also have Andrea Bornicu here, a student of management of tourism from Italy. And yeah, basically the question is, if there are any programs to engage students in the movement to change the future of tourism towards sustainability.
Well, you can approach us on the website in the contact form, and then we can see how we can get synergy between us.
All right. So if you wish to add anything else, Albert or Kim, then please go ahead. I don't see any more questions at the moment.
No, I think that's everything from my side, Albert.
Yes, I only have some closing words of the conference, so I don't know whether it's time for that now.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Cengiz. Dear all, we enjoyed 6 wonderful and interesting sessions from our side. I hope you enjoyed them too. There is a broad fear, or should I say awareness, that COVID will stay on for some more years. But we were all convinced this week that not COVID, but sustainability is here to stay. Interest in safety and sustainability in tourism is on the increase, very clearly. Many are aware that after winning the COVID battle, we still have the climate crisis as the most important challenge of all. Tourism is changing, and the future of tourism is going to be very different. Tourism has a future which is slowly becoming more clear. Smaller numbers, less international travel, more domestic travel, longer stays, more intensive experiences will hopefully see the end of over-tourism and mass tourism better controlled. We estimated that in 2019, 99.9% of travelers visited only 1% of the world's destinations, causing over-tourism. When only half of these travelers avoid these over-tourism destinations, there will be 700,000 travelers potentially interested in other destinations, maybe your destinations. That's good to keep in mind. We also see many innovations allowing communities to survive, reset, recover and prosper again, but also to enhance travel experience for new categories of visitors. For Slovenia, we today heard, and other small-scale destinations, it was too busy before. Local communities took a deep breath this year to reset and rediscover their own place and friendships. Visitors can stay safely in the countryside, close to nature and culture and attractions, in Slovenia and in many other places as well. And the same will be true for cities like Ljubljana that still have green surroundings, like also Amsterdam and even Venice. And for some of our own green destinations and top 100 destinations. That's at least positive news in these dark days. Many of us this week were excited to see light at the end of the tunnel, and we are very grateful that you shared that with us. I was personally impressed with many presentations, and not least with JoAnna's on storytelling, which was amazing. I hope the next Green Destinations Days can again be a live event, because that means we would have escaped from this dark and scary tunnel. Many thanks to the speakers and the hosts, and not least the event organizers in the front desk and in the back office. In the first place, Victor, Cengiz, Hugo, Christina, Camilla, Patricia, and many others. Thank you so much. You did a great job and made the event. Tomorrow we will continue the conference with GGDD Portugal and Brazil. a Portuguese language session. Everybody is again welcome to join and to improve your knowledge of this beautiful language, which sounds like a song from the Atlantic Ocean itself. For now, I would like to thank you all for participating and see you back tomorrow or very soon afterwards. Take care. Thank you. So I think we are closing this session and hopefully see you tomorrow or later.